Welcome to our deep dive, and today we're going to be looking at some sources that might seem kind of random at first glance.
Yeah, a little bit all over the
We've
place.
got like a Captain America movie review,
Okay.
a whale encounter, soaring egg prices, lab-grown meat, even a pricey Valentine's Day staple, and the skincare habits of young girls.
Wow, that's quite a range.
But as we dig deeper, you'll see that these seemingly unconnected topics can reveal some really fascinating trends.
Yeah, it's kind of like how, like a mosaic, you've got all these different pieces and they don't seem to go together, but then when you step back, you see this bigger picture.
Right, exactly. And that's what we're going to try to do today is step back and see what that bigger picture is.
Sounds good. I'm ready.
All right, well, let's start with something fun, superheroes.
Okay.
So we've got this AP review of the new Captain American movie, Brave New World,
I've heard of it.
and the critic did not hold back at all.
Oh, really?
Compared it to highly processed, empty-calorie candy. Ouch.
Harsh.
Yeah, they felt like it was just rehashing old ideas and really wasted Anthony Mackie's talents.
Interesting, because I thought he was really good in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Right, me too.
So if they're saying that this movie doesn't showcase his talent, I wonder if maybe there's something to that superhero fatigue that people have been talking about.
Right, yeah. Are we just getting tired of the same old superhero formula?
It makes you wonder if audiences are starting to demand more.
Yeah, more depth, more nuance.
Right, like what makes these characters tick? What are their motivations?
Yeah.
Not just explosions and fight scenes.
And the review mentions some pretty funny details, too. Apparently, the Red Hulk makes the regular Hulk look like Timothy Chalamet.
Okay, now that's funny.
And the critic even said that Harrison Ford, who plays President Ross, should fire his agent.
I'm curious about Harrison Ford in that role. He's got that iconic, that kind of world-weary persona.
Right.
So to see him as a president dealing with all these superheroes, I think that could be a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
Me too.
All right, well, speaking of tricky situations, let's move on from the fictional world of superheroes to a real-life encounter with a humpback whale.
Oh, wow, this sounds interesting.
So there's this incredible story about a kayaker in Chile who was briefly swallowed by a whale.
Swallowed by a whale?
Yeah, I know, crazy, right?
I can't even imagine.
But he was unharmed.
Oh, thank goodness.
And the whole incident was actually caught on video by the kayaker's father.
Wow, it's amazing how everyone has a camera these days, isn't it?
It's true. You never know when you might capture something truly remarkable.
Right? It kind of changes our relationship to these events when we know they could be recorded and shared with the world.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's switch gears again, this time to the world of Bridget Jones.
Bridget Jones.
Have you heard about the new movie, Bridget Jones? Mad About the Boy?
I have. I've heard it's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, apparently it's being hailed as the best one since the original.
Really?
Bridget is now navigating widowhood, parenting, and even a new romance with a much younger man.
Well, good for her.
The review mentioned that Hugh Grant's character is back.
Oh, really? I wonder how they're going to bring him back.
I know, right?
But you know what? I think it's great that she's in her 50s and embracing this new chapter in her life.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not just about the romance. This movie seems to be touching on some really universal themes.
Like what?
Like grief and aging and societal expectations and finding happiness in unexpected places.
I think that's why Bridget Jones has resonated with so many people for so long. She's flawed, she makes mistakes, that she keeps going with this sense of humor and optimism. And I think a lot of people find that inspiring.
Absolutely. All right, let's shift gears from romantic comedies to a real-world economic drama starring eggs.
Eggs?
Eggs. So egg prices have skyrocketed lately because of the bird flu outbreak.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that at the grocery store.
And in response to this, Nevada is actually trying a controversial solution. They're suspending their cage-free egg law.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
What do you think about that?
Well, it really highlights the unintended consequences that can happen. You have these cage-free laws that are designed to improve animal welfare, which is a good thing.
All right.
But then you have this bird flu outbreak wiping out flocks and creating this massive supply chain disruption.
It's a tough situation for sure.
It is, and it kind of makes you realize how fragile our food systems are.
It's crazy to think that only about 40% of egg-laying chickens in the U.S. are actually raised cage-free.
I didn't know that.
The article mentioned that some people in California are paying almost $13 for a dozen eggs.
I know, it's crazy.
Have you noticed the price increases affecting your grocery shopping at all?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything seems to be more expensive these days.
It's true. All right. Well, from a supermarket staple to a potential food revolution, let's talk about lab-grown meat.
Lab-grown meat.
Have you ever thought about trying it?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm curious about it, but I don't know if I'm ready to actually eat it.
The article describes it in such a vivid way. They talk about the aroma of sizzling chicken in a test kitchen.
Oh, wow.
Scientists working in labs, bioreactors full of cells, and chicken that's never even set foot on a farm.
That's pretty wild to think about.
It really is. And there are some potential benefits, right? Like the environmental impact.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the land, water, and energy that goes into raising livestock lab-grown meat could significantly reduce those demands.
Right. And not to mention the animal welfare aspect. If we can produce meat without raising and slaughtering animals, that would be a huge step forward.
Absolutely. But there are challenges too.
Oh, for sure.
Like how do you replicate the texture of a steak, for example? Or bring the cost down so it's affordable?
And then there's the ick factor.
Yeah, some people just can't get past the idea of eating something grown in a lab.
The article mentioned that even the founder of one of these lab-grown meat companies has a son who won't eat it.
Really? Even his own son won't eat it.
Yeah, I know, right? It just goes to show that it's one thing to understand the science and the benefits, but it's another thing entirely to put it on your plate.
Right, it's like a psychological barrier you have to overcome.
Okay, moving from a potential future food source to a potential shift in the AI landscape, Elon Musk has made a bid to buy OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT.
Oh, wow, I did not hear about this.
But here's the catch. He only wants to buy it if it remains a nonprofit.
That's interesting. What's his reasoning behind that?
Well, he was actually one of the co-founders of OpenAI.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But he left the board back in 2018, reportedly because of disagreements about the company's direction.
I see.
And now he's essentially challenging the current CEO, Sam Altman.
And is Altman open to the idea?
Not at all. He's already rejected the offer, stating that OpenAI is not for sale.
So there's some tension there.
Definitely. And OpenAI isn't exactly struggling financially right now, thanks to the success of ChatGPT.
True. So it makes me wonder what Musk's real motivations are.
It's hard to say for sure, but it definitely raises questions about the future of AI development and the ethics involved.
Like, who should control these powerful technologies, and what are the potential consequences if that control falls into the wrong hands?
Yeah, those are big questions.
They are.
Let's shift gear from AI battles to a story of scientific discovery on a cosmic scale.
Okay, I love space stuff.
So, NASA scientists have been analyzing the samples returned from asteroid Bennu.
Bennu.
Yeah, and they've found evidence of an ancient water world.
Wow, that's amazing.
Isn't it incredible?
It really supports the theory that asteroids might have brought the building blocks of life to Earth.
Right, and it suggests that water was present very early in the solar system's history, which changes our understanding of how life might have emerged.
It's mind-blowing to think about.
The article emphasized just how delicate these findings are.
Oh, really?
Apparently, the sodium-rich salts they found wouldn't have survived a trip through Earth's atmosphere if they'd arrived as a meteorite.
So we're really lucky to have those samples.
We are, and now from the vastness of space, let's come back down to Earth for a sweet treat that's not so sweet on the wallet. Chocolate.
Oh no, chocolate is getting more expensive.
I know, it's not just inflation.
What's going on?
Well, the article calls it a perfect storm for cocoa prices.
A perfect storm, what does that mean?
Well, we're talking climate change, disrupting growing conditions, diseases, impacting cocoa trees, commodity speculation, driving up prices, farmers struggling with low pay for years, leading many to abandon cocoa farming altogether.
So it's a supply and demand issue.
Exactly. And at the same time, global demand for chocolate is increasing as more people around the world develop a taste for it.
It's ironic, isn't it? For years, cocoa farmers weren't getting a fair price for their beans, and now that prices are rising to a point where they could earn a decent living, many have already left the industry.
It's a tough situation. It raises the question, should we as consumers be indulging in a luxury that comes at such a cost?
That's a good point. It's not just about the price of chocolate. It's about the livelihoods of the farmers and the sustainability of the entire industry.
Right. We need to start thinking about where our food comes from and the human and ecological costs involved.
I agree. And now from the economics of chocolate to a concerning trend among young girls, have you heard about the Sephora Kids?
Sephora Kids, what's that?
So these are young girls who are buying anti-aging products, the kind of stuff that's really meant for adults.
And what's the problem with that?
Well, these products are often way too harsh for their skin.
Oh, no.
And it's leading to rashes, burns, other skin problems.
That's awful.
The article shared this heartbreaking story about an 11-year-old girl named Scarlett who suffered severe burns after using these adult products, and now she's dealing with lasting damage and anxiety.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is, and it makes you wonder what's driving this trend.
Yeah, why are these young girls feeling the need to use anti-aging products?
I think it's the pressure to conform to these unrealistic beauty standards that are constantly being pushed on social media.
Social media definitely plays a role.
You see all these influencers with their perfect skin and their filtered images, and it creates this distorted view of what's considered beautiful.
And it's not just about physical appearance. This trend seems to point to a larger issue, the impact that social media is having on children's self-perception and their relationship with their bodies.
It's something we need to be talking about more as a society.
Absolutely, but we'll have to continue this conversation in part 2 of our deep dive.
I'm ready for part 2.
We'll be back right after this. So we were just talking about this whole thing with young girls and anti-aging products, the hashtag Sephora Kids.
It is worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not just about skincare. It's about all the messages our kids are bombarded with online and offline these days.
It's true, and it's tough for parents to keep up.
It is, but, we have to try to have these conversations with them.
We do.
Help them develop a healthy sense of self-esteem.
Exactly.
Critical thinking skills,
Right.
all that good stuff.
It's so important.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit to something
Okay.
a little more upbeat.
Sounds good.
The Philadelphia Eagles are having their Super Bowl parade.
Oh, that's right.
The city's expecting a huge crowd.
Not bad.
And they're taking extra precautions this year after, what happened in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah, when gunfire broke out during the Chiefs celebration.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully everything goes smoothly in Philly.
Fingers crossed.
All right, so let's talk about an issue that requires collective action on a different level, bird flu.
Okay.
We talked about how it's driving up egg prices, but this article highlights another concern, silent spread among veterinarians.
Silent spread.
Yeah, so this study found that a small number of vets tested positive for bird flu antibodies, even though they didn't remember having any symptoms.
So they were asymptomatic.
Exactly, and it suggests that the virus could be more widespread than we realize.
That's a little unsettling.
It is, and it's not the first study to find this kind of thing. Remember last year there was that research on dairy farm workers?
Right, and they found the same thing, people infected but no symptoms.
Yeah, so it just shows, we have to be vigilant.
We do, and it makes you think about, how do you track and contain a virus that spreads so quietly?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, so for a story that touches on both individual responsibility and the need for government action, let's talk about Tesla. Yeah, so apparently the State Department has halted its plan to buy a bunch of armored vehicles from Tesla.
Why is that?
They're citing concerns about Elon Musk's actions.
Oh, wow. So it's not about the vehicles themselves, it's about the CEO.
Right, it seems like Musk's behavior has raised some red flags for the government.
Yeah, he's definitely been a controversial figure lately.
The article mentioned protests outside Tesla showrooms, people expressing their disapproval of Musk's political views and how he's handled certain situations.
It's interesting how a CEO's actions can have such a ripple effect.
It's true, not just on their personal reputation, but on the company they lead.
It makes you think about corporate responsibility.
Yeah, and the ethical considerations that companies should be taking into account.
Definitely.
Right, so let's circle back to something we touched on earlier, the rising cost of chocolate.
Oh, yeah. Chocolate?
We're not just talking about regular inflation here. It's like this perfect storm of factors pushing cocoa prices higher and higher.
We talked about that a bit before. What are some of the main drivers?
So climate change disrupting growing conditions,
Okay.
diseases impacting cocoa trees, commodity speculation,
Right.
farmers struggling with low pay,
Right, all those things.
and it's leading to this ironic situation.
What do you mean?
Well, for years, cocoa farmers struggled with low prices, which led many to abandon their farms.
Yeah.
Now, as global demand for chocolate keeps rising and supply dwindles, prices are finally reaching a point where farmers could earn a decent living.
But it might be too late.
Exactly. Many have already left the industry.
It's a tough cycle to break.
It is, and it highlights the need for more sustainable and equitable systems.
Absolutely. We have to ensure fair compensation for farmers and protect the environment.
It all comes back to, being mindful of where our food comes from and the human and ecological costs involved.
I agree, and I think that's a good reminder for all of us.
It is, and it brings me to a question that I've been thinking about a lot during this deep dive in a world that's so saturated with information.
Yeah.
Constant stimulation, the weight of all these global challenges, how do we find meaning?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is, how do we make sense of it all?
I don't think there's any easy answer.
Right.
But I do believe that the search for meaning is fundamental to who we are as humans.
It's what drives us, right?
It is. It's what drives us to explore, to question, to create, to connect with others.
And to find our place in the world.
Exactly. And that journey, that search for meaning, it's unique to each individual.
So there's no one right way to do it.
No, there isn't. Some people might find meaning in their relationships and their work and their hobbies.
Others might find it in nature or their spirituality.
Right, or in their commitment to making a difference.
It's about finding what resonates with you, what gives you a sense of purpose.
I think so. And also being open to new experiences, new perspectives.
Yeah, and embracing the complexities of life.
Because that's where the real learning happens.
Absolutely. All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive, but we have even more to uncover in the final part.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned as we explore the power of storytelling, the importance of connection, and that enduring search for meaning in a complex world. We've jumped around between topics in this deep dive, but I feel like one theme that keeps coming up is the power of stories.
Yeah, stories are everywhere, aren't they?
They are, and they shape how we see the world, how we connect with each other, how we find meaning. I mean, think about it.
Yeah, like that kayaker.
The one who got swallowed by the whale?
Yeah, exactly. What a story.
I know. It's like a story of survival against all odds, right?
It is. And Bridget Jones, too. She's constantly messing things up.
Yeah.
But she always gets back up, keeps going.
And she makes us laugh along the way.
Exactly. She reminds us it's okay to be imperfect.
And then you got those scientists analyzing that asteroid dust.
Right, trying to figure out how life began.
Yeah, and that's a story about human curiosity, our desire to understand where we come from.
I love that.
Each of these stories, they tap into something fundamental, something that resonates with us on a deeper level.
It's true, and it makes you realize that even though we're all different, we're all connected in a way.
Through these shared experiences.
Through the stories we tell and the stories we hear.
Exactly. And that's what gives us hope, I think, in a world that can feel so fragmented and overwhelming.
I agree. Stories have this way of reminding us of our shared humanity, our capacity for compassion.
And our potential to create something better.
Yeah.
So this brings me back to a question that I've been pondering throughout this deep dive. In a world that's inundated with information, with constant stimulation, with the weight of all these global challenges bearing down on us, how do we find meaning?
Ah, that's the ultimate question, isn't it?
It is. How do we make sense of it all?
I don't think there's one right answer.
No.
But I do believe that the search for meaning is an essential part of being human.
It's what drives us to explore, to question, to create.
To connect with others, to find our place in the world.
Right. And that journey, that search for meaning, it's unique to each individual.
It is. Some people might find meaning in their relationships, their families, their friends.
Their communities.
Right, or in their work.
Or their hobbies, or their passions.
Exactly. Or their connection to nature or their spirituality.
It's about finding what resonates with you, what gives you a sense of purpose.
Yeah, and being open to new experiences, new perspectives.
And embracing the complexities of life.
Absolutely, because that's where the real learning happens.
That's where the growth happens.
Yeah.
Well, we've come to the end of our deep dive.
Already?
And, we've only scratched the surface of these topics.
We have.
But I hope we've sparked your curiosity.
Yeah, given you something to think about.
Maybe even ignited a sense of hope for the future.
That would be great.
Our goal is to leave you with something to ponder, to inspire you to engage with the world in a more meaningful way.
And to remember that even amidst all the chaos, there's beauty to be found.
There are connections to be made.
And stories waiting to be told.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been fun.
We encourage you to continue the conversation.
Yeah, share your thoughts, your insights with us and with others.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking meaning in the world around you.